Question 1. Strategic planning requires Petco to evaluate its current customer service workflows. Which of the following approaches best aligns with optimizing these processes while adhering to regulatory and ethical standards? Option A. Implementing a new automated customer support system that significantly reduces the need for human interaction, prioritizing speed and cost efficiency above all else. Option B. Shifting customer service inquiries to a third-party vendor without thoroughly vetting their compliance with U.S. consumer protection laws or their customer service standards. Option C. Reducing the number of customer service representatives to cut labor costs, with the expectation that customers will adapt to longer wait times. Option D. Conducting a comprehensive review of customer feedback and operational data to identify bottlenecks, then redesigning workflows to improve response times and resolution rates, ensuring all changes comply with consumer protection laws and Petco's ethical guidelines. Correct answer is A. Implementing a new automated customer support system that significantly reduces the need for human interaction, prioritizing speed and cost efficiency above all else. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because Petco, as a retail company, operates under various consumer protection laws and internal ethical guidelines designed to ensure fair business practices and customer satisfaction. Implementing process optimization without considering these frameworks can lead to unintended negative consequences, including regulatory noncompliance, damage to brand reputation, and erosion of customer trust. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency gains with legal and ethical obligations. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing Petco processes to identify inefficiencies, followed by the development and implementation of optimized solutions that are compliant with all applicable U.S. federal and state consumer protection laws, as well as Petco's own ethical standards for customer service and product representation. This includes ensuring that any changes do not mislead customers, create unfair pricing practices, or compromise product safety and quality. The regulatory justification lies in adhering to statutes like the Federal Trade Commission Act, which prohibits unfair or deceptive acts or practices, and state-specific consumer protection laws. Ethically, it aligns with principles of transparency and fairness in business operations, an approach that focuses solely on cost reduction, without considering the impact on customer experience or regulatory compliance, is professionally unacceptable. For example, streamlining customer service by reducing staff without adequate technological support or alternative channels could lead to longer wait times and unresolved issues, potentially violating consumer rights to accessible service and support. Another incorrect approach might involve altering product descriptions or pricing strategies to appear more competitive, without ensuring the accuracy and truthfulness of these claims, which would be a direct violation of deceptive advertising regulations. Furthermore, optimizing inventory management in a way that leads to stockouts of advertised products without clear communication to customers could be considered a deceptive practice. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a holistic review of proposed process changes. This involves assessing potential impacts on customers, employees, and regulatory adherence. A risk assessment should be conducted for each proposed optimization, identifying potential legal, ethical, and operational pitfalls. Solutions should be vetted against relevant legal statutes and company policies before implementation, and pilot testing can help identify unforeseen issues. Continuous monitoring and feedback mechanisms are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and customer satisfaction. Question 2. Strategic planning requires Petco to optimize its processes for the acquisition, care, and sale of live animals, considering the company's commitment to animal welfare and compliance with U.S. regulations. Which of the following approaches best aligns with these objectives? Option A. Expediting the adoption process by shortening the time required for customer consultations and animal temperament evaluations. Option B. Reducing the number of staff responsible for animal care to decrease labor costs associated with daily husbandry. Option C. Implementing enhanced sanitation protocols, increased staff training on animal health monitoring, and a more thorough pre-sale animal health assessment process. Option D. Relying solely on supplier certifications for animal health and welfare without independent internal verification. The correct answer is C. Implementing enhanced sanitation protocols, increased staff training on animal health monitoring, and a more thorough pre-sale animal health assessment process. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail company operating within the United States, must adhere to a complex web of federal and state regulations concerning animal welfare, product safety, and consumer protection. Implementing process optimization for the handling and sale of live animals requires a deep understanding of these regulations to ensure compliance, prevent harm to animals, and maintain customer trust. Failure to do so can result in significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and a negative impact on animal well-being. The correct approach involves a thorough review and potential revision of Petco's internal policies and procedures for animal care and sales, ensuring they not only meet but exceed minimum regulatory standards. This proactive stance demonstrates a commitment to ethical business practices and animal welfare, which is often implicitly or explicitly supported by consumer protection laws and industry best practices. For instance, the Animal Welfare Act, AWA, sets baseline standards, but responsible retailers go further to ensure optimal health and living conditions. Optimizing processes with a focus on animal health, sanitation, and staff training directly aligns with the spirit and letter of these regulations, fostering a safer and more humane environment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on animal care would be professionally unacceptable. Such an approach could lead to understaffing, inadequate veterinary care, or insufficient sanitation, directly violating animal welfare regulations and potentially leading to outbreaks of disease or animal suffering. This would expose Petco to regulatory scrutiny and potential fines. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of sale over proper animal assessment and customer education would also be problematic. Regulations and ethical considerations demand that animals are healthy and suitable for sale, and that customers are adequately informed about their care needs. Rushing these processes can lead to the sale of unhealthy animals or to customers unprepared for pet ownership, both of which have negative consequences and can violate consumer protection principles. Finally, an approach that bypasses established veterinary protocols or expert advice in favor of expediency would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Petco has a responsibility to ensure the health and well-being of the animals it sells, which necessitates adhering to veterinary guidance and established best practices for animal husbandry and health management. Professionals tasked with process optimization at Petco should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes regulatory compliance, animal welfare, and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Identifying all applicable federal, state, and local regulations related to animal sales and care. 2. Assessing current processes against these regulations and identifying potential gaps or areas for improvement. 3. Engaging with veterinary professionals and animal welfare experts to inform process design. 4. Implementing changes that demonstrably enhance animal health, safety, and the customer experience, while also considering operational efficiency. 5. Continuously monitoring and evaluating processes to ensure ongoing compliance and identify further optimization opportunities. Question 3. Strategic planning requires Petco to optimize its in-store customer service processes to improve efficiency and customer satisfaction. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory requirements and ethical business practices for Petco? Option A. Automating customer service interactions with chatbots that are programmed to deflect complex inquiries to avoid escalating issues, thereby reducing the need for human intervention. Option B. Reducing the number of customer service staff during peak hours to cut labor costs, assuming that customers will adapt to longer wait times. Option C. Implementing a new customer feedback system that automatically categorizes and prioritizes issues based on urgency, ensuring all high-priority issues are addressed within 24 hours, and all feedback is reviewed by the compliance department for potential regulatory concerns before any systemic changes are made. Option D. Introducing a new loyalty program that offers significant discounts, but uses vague language regarding terms and conditions to encourage sign-ups. Correct answer is C. Implementing a new customer feedback system that automatically categorizes and prioritizes issues based on urgency, ensuring all high-priority issues are addressed within 24 hours, and all feedback is reviewed by the compliance department for potential regulatory concerns before any systemic changes are made. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail company, operates within a complex web of consumer protection laws and internal ethical guidelines designed to ensure fair business practices and customer trust. Implementing process optimization must not inadvertently lead to non-compliance with these regulations or compromise ethical standards. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency gains with legal and ethical obligations. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing processes to identify inefficiencies and areas for improvement, with a primary focus on ensuring that any proposed changes align with Petco's commitment to customer service and regulatory compliance. This approach prioritizes understanding the current state, identifying potential risks, and developing solutions that are both effective and legally sound. Regulatory frameworks, such as those governing advertising, product safety, and customer data privacy, must be considered. Ethically, this means acting with integrity and transparency in all business dealings. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering regulatory implications could lead to violations of consumer protection laws. For example, streamlining customer service processes to the point where it hinders customers' ability to resolve issues or obtain necessary information could violate regulations requiring clear communication and accessible support. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough risk assessment might overlook potential data privacy breaches or misrepresentations in marketing materials, both of which carry significant legal and reputational consequences. Failing to consult with legal and compliance departments before implementing significant changes is a critical ethical and regulatory failure. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of objectives, followed by a comprehensive assessment of potential impacts, including regulatory and ethical considerations. This involves proactive engagement with relevant stakeholders, including legal counsel and compliance officers, to ensure all proposed optimizations are vetted against applicable laws and company policies. A phased implementation with pilot testing and ongoing monitoring can help identify and mitigate unforeseen issues before widespread deployment. Question 4. Strategic planning requires Petco to evaluate its customer service workflow for online order fulfillment. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with regulatory and customer satisfaction imperatives? Option A. Introducing a simplified one-size-fits-all customer service script for all inquiries, regardless of complexity, to expedite response times. Option B. Outsourcing the entire customer service function to a third-party vendor with a lower cost structure, without conducting an in-depth review of their operational procedures or compliance protocols. Option C. Conducting a thorough analysis of current customer feedback and operational data to identify specific areas of delay or error, then piloting targeted improvements that are reviewed for compliance with Petco's customer service standards and relevant consumer protection guidelines before full rollout. Option D. Implementing a new automated system that significantly reduces the need for human interaction in order picking and packing, with a focus on speed and cost savings. The correct answer is D. Implementing a new automated system that significantly reduces the need for human interaction in order picking and packing, with a focus on speed and cost savings. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail and service provider for pets, operates under various consumer protection laws and industry best practices. Ensuring efficient operational processes is crucial not only for profitability, but also for maintaining customer trust and compliance with regulations related to product safety, service delivery standards, and accurate information dissemination. The challenge lies in balancing the drive for optimization with the imperative to uphold these standards, especially when changes might impact customer experience or regulatory adherence. Careful judgment is required to identify improvements that are both effective and compliant. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and then proposing and implementing changes based on data and best practices, while ensuring all proposed changes are vetted against current Petco policies and relevant consumer protection guidelines. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes a data-driven and compliant method for improvement. It ensures that any process optimization is not only effective in achieving its goals, but also adheres to ethical standards and regulatory requirements. thereby safeguarding Petco's reputation and customer relationships. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on service quality or regulatory compliance is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to violations of consumer protection laws if, for example, reduced staffing leads to inadequate customer assistance or compromised product handling. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough testing and validation risks introducing errors or unintended consequences that could harm customers or violate operational standards. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established internal review processes for new procedures could lead to noncompliance with internal Petco policies or external regulations, creating significant legal and reputational risks. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of process optimization. This should be followed by a comprehensive assessment of current processes, including potential risks and impacts. Any proposed changes must then be evaluated against relevant regulatory frameworks, internal policies, and ethical considerations. Pilot testing and stakeholder feedback are essential before full implementation. Continuous monitoring and evaluation are also critical to ensure ongoing effectiveness and compliance. Question 5. Benchmark analysis indicates that Petco's current customer service response times for in-store inquiries are impacting customer satisfaction scores. When considering process optimization to address this, which of the following approaches best aligns with Petco's commitment to regulatory compliance and animal welfare? Option A. Introducing a self-service kiosk for common product questions, without first assessing if the information provided by the kiosk is fully compliant with all product labeling and safety regulations. Option B. Implementing a new digital queue system that automatically routes customers to the next available associate, regardless of their specific inquiry, to reduce overall wait times. Option C. Reducing the number of associates scheduled during peak hours to reallocate labor to other operational areas, assuming that customers will adapt to longer wait times. Option D. Developing a tiered customer service model where associates are cross-trained to handle a broader range of inquiries, with a focus on empowering them to resolve issues independently, while ensuring all training modules explicitly cover relevant animal care and product safety regulations. The correct answer is B. Implementing a new digital queue system that automatically routes customers to the next available associate, regardless of their specific inquiry, to reduce overall wait times. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Petco employees tasked with optimizing internal processes. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for efficiency and cost-effectiveness with the absolute priority of adhering to all applicable regulatory frameworks, particularly those governing animal welfare and consumer protection. Misinterpreting or overlooking regulatory requirements during process optimization can lead to significant legal repercussions, reputational damage, and most importantly, harm to the animals Petco serves. The pressure to improve performance must be tempered by a rigorous understanding of compliance obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing Petco operational procedures against current federal and state regulations pertaining to animal care, sales, and handling, as well as consumer protection laws. This includes consulting Petco's internal compliance guidelines and seeking input from legal and compliance departments. Process optimization should then focus on identifying efficiencies that do not compromise regulatory adherence or animal welfare standards. For example, streamlining inventory management for pet food should not lead to expired products being offered, which would violate consumer protection laws. Similarly, optimizing staffing schedules for animal care areas must ensure adequate supervision and care, aligning with animal welfare regulations. This approach prioritizes compliance as the foundational element of any process improvement, ensuring that efficiency gains are sustainable and legally sound. Incorrect approach is analysis. Focusing solely on cost reduction without a comprehensive regulatory review is an incorrect approach. This could lead to the implementation of measures that, while cheaper, violate regulations such as the Animal Welfare Act or state-specific pet sale laws. For instance, reducing staffing in animal care areas to cut labor costs might result in insufficient monitoring of animal health, a direct violation of welfare standards. Implementing new technology or software for inventory or customer management, without verifying its compliance with data privacy regulations, e.g., CCPA if applicable in California, or its impact on animal care protocols is also an incorrect approach. The technology itself might be efficient, but its integration could inadvertently create compliance gaps. Adopting best practices from other retail sectors without considering the unique regulatory landscape of the pet industry is another flawed strategy. While general process optimization principles might be transferable, the specific legal and ethical obligations related to live animals and pet products are distinct and require tailored compliance considerations. This could lead to overlooking critical animal welfare or product safety regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals at Petco should adopt a risk-based approach to process optimization. This involves 1. Identifying all relevant regulatory frameworks, federal, state, local, impacting the process under review. 2. Conducting a gap analysis between current practices and regulatory requirements. 3. Prioritizing compliance and animal welfare as non-negotiable elements. 4. Brainstorming optimization strategies that enhance efficiency with an asterisk the bounds of regulatory compliance. 5. Consulting with legal, compliance, and animal welfare experts throughout the process. 6. Implementing changes incrementally with ongoing monitoring to ensure sustained compliance and effectiveness. Question 6. Strategic planning requires Petco to optimize its in-store animal care and sales processes to accommodate increased customer traffic. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with the company's commitment to animal welfare and customer trust? Option A. Introducing a policy that allows staff to expedite the sale of animals by bypassing standard health observation periods if the animal appears outwardly healthy to meet customer demand. Option B. Implementing a streamlined animal adoption screening process that reduces the time required for customer interviews, allowing more adoptions to be processed daily. Option C. Conducting a comprehensive review of current animal care protocols, identifying areas where technology or revised workflows can improve efficiency without compromising the health, safety, or well-being of animals, and ensuring customer-facing processes remain transparent and informative. Option D. Developing a new inventory management system that prioritizes rapid restocking of pet supplies, even if it means temporarily reducing the frequency of deep cleaning for animal habitats. The correct answer is B. Implementing a streamlined animal adoption screening process that reduces the time required for customer interviews, allowing more adoptions to be processed daily. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail organization, must balance operational efficiency with compliance with various consumer protection and animal welfare regulations. The pressure to optimize processes, especially during a period of growth, can lead to shortcuts that inadvertently violate these standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that efficiency gains do not compromise the well-being of animals or the trust of customers. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks, and implementing changes that enhance efficiency without negatively impacting animal care standards or customer experience. This aligns with Petco's ethical obligations to provide a safe and healthy environment for its animals and to be transparent with its customers. Regulatory frameworks, such as those governing animal sales and care, implicitly require that operational processes support these fundamental responsibilities. Prioritizing a thorough, data-driven analysis that considers the impact on animal welfare and customer satisfaction is paramount. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without assessing the impact on animal care would be ethically and potentially legally problematic. Such an approach could lead to inadequate staffing, insufficient supplies, or compromised living conditions for animals, violating animal welfare laws and Petco's own ethical commitments. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of service over thorough animal health checks could lead to the sale of unhealthy animals, damaging customer trust and potentially violating consumer protection laws related to product quality and disclosure. Finally, an approach that bypasses established safety protocols for animal handling to save time could result in injury to both animals and staff, creating liability and violating workplace safety regulations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core objectives of process optimization: efficiency, cost-effectiveness, and then rigorously evaluates each potential change against Petco's ethical standards, regulatory obligations, including animal welfare and consumer protection, and impact on customer experience. This involves proactive risk assessment, stakeholder consultation, including animal care specialists, and a commitment to continuous improvement that prioritizes well-being and compliance. Question 7. The audit findings indicate that the current hiring process at Petco for store associates is experiencing significant delays, leading to extended vacancy periods. To address this, management is considering several approaches to optimize the process. Which approach best balances efficiency with the need for thorough candidate evaluation and adherence to professional hiring standards? Option A. Focus solely on reducing the time spent on reference checks to speed up the final hiring decision. Option B. Implement a streamlined multi-stage interview process that incorporates behavioral questions and a brief skills assessment, while ensuring all candidates undergo a standardized background check. Option C. Introduce a new, unproven AI-driven screening tool without a pilot phase to rapidly filter applicants. Option D. Immediately reduce the number of interview stages and eliminate the skills assessment to expedite candidate selection. The correct answer is B. Implement a streamlined multi-stage interview process that incorporates behavioral questions and a brief skills assessment, while ensuring all candidates undergo a standardized background check. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to Petco's internal policies and potentially relevant industry best practices for animal welfare and customer service, all within the context of a hiring assessment. The pressure to fill roles quickly can lead to overlooking critical process steps. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing hiring process to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies without compromising the quality of candidate evaluation or the integrity of the hiring decision. This is crucial for ensuring that Petco hires qualified individuals who align with the company's values and operational standards, thereby minimizing future performance issues or compliance risks. This approach aligns with the general principles of good corporate governance and responsible hiring practices, which are implicitly expected in any professional assessment, even if not explicitly codified in a specific regulatory framework for this particular exam. An approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by skipping essential candidate screening steps would be professionally unacceptable. This failure could lead to hiring individuals who are not a good fit for the role or the company culture, potentially impacting team performance and customer experience. Furthermore, it could inadvertently lead to a lack of due diligence in assessing a candidate's suitability, which, while not a direct regulatory violation in this context, represents a failure in professional responsibility and sound business practice. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost reduction by limiting the number of assessment tools or interview stages, would also be professionally unsound. This could result in a superficial evaluation of candidates, increasing the risk of making suboptimal hiring decisions. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of the importance of a comprehensive assessment in identifying the best talent and ensuring long-term success for both the employee and Petco. Finally, an approach that involves implementing new assessment methods without proper validation or pilot testing would be a significant professional misstep. This could introduce bias, lead to inaccurate candidate evaluations, and undermine the credibility of the hiring process. It shows a disregard for established best practices in talent acquisition and assessment design. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core objectives of the hiring process, finding the best fit, and then systematically evaluating current steps for efficiency and effectiveness. This involves consulting relevant internal guidelines, considering industry best practices, and prioritizing a balanced approach that values both speed and quality. When faced with audit findings, the professional response is to analyze the root causes of the identified issues and propose solutions that are both practical and aligned with ethical and professional standards. Question 8. Strategic planning requires Petco to optimize its in-store customer service processes to improve efficiency and customer satisfaction. Considering the company's commitment to operating within U.S. federal and state regulatory frameworks, which of the following approaches best aligns with responsible business practices and regulatory compliance? Option A. Focus exclusively on reducing labor costs associated with customer service by automating as many interactions as possible, assuming that technological advancements inherently meet regulatory standards. Option B. Implement a new customer service protocol immediately based on competitor analysis to gain a competitive edge, addressing any compliance issues only if they arise. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of current Petco customer service procedures against relevant U.S. federal and state consumer protection, data privacy, and retail operation laws, and consult with legal counsel to ensure proposed optimizations are compliant before implementation. Option D. Prioritize the fastest possible rollout of new customer service technologies, relying on employee training to implicitly cover any unforeseen regulatory requirements. The correct answer is B. Implement a new customer service protocol immediately based on competitor analysis to gain a competitive edge, addressing any compliance issues only if they arise. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail organization, must balance operational efficiency with adherence to various consumer protection and business practice regulations. The pressure to implement changes quickly for competitive advantage can lead to overlooking critical compliance steps. Careful judgment is required to ensure that process optimization efforts do not inadvertently violate any applicable laws or ethical standards. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing Petco policies and relevant U.S. federal and state regulations pertaining to retail operations, data privacy, and customer service before implementing any new process. This proactive compliance check ensures that proposed optimizations align with legal requirements and ethical business conduct. Specifically, it demonstrates a commitment to responsible business practices, which is often implicitly or explicitly expected by regulatory bodies and consumers. This approach minimizes the risk of fines, legal challenges, and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering regulatory implications could lead to violations of consumer protection laws, such as those governing advertising, pricing, or product safety. For example, if a new process streamlines inventory management by reducing staff oversight, it might inadvertently lead to the sale of expired products, violating regulations designed to protect consumer health and safety. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over data security could result in breaches of customer privacy, violating regulations like the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, or similar state-level data protection laws. This would expose Petco to significant penalties and erode customer trust. An approach that bypasses established internal review processes, even with good intentions, risks overlooking critical compliance checkpoints and could be seen as a failure of internal controls, which is often scrutinized by regulatory bodies. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that integrates compliance and ethical considerations into the initial stages of process optimization. This involves forming cross-functional teams that include legal and compliance representatives, conducting risk assessments that specifically identify potential regulatory pitfalls, and prioritizing solutions that are both efficient and compliant. A robust process would involve a compliance by design philosophy, where regulatory adherence is a core component of the optimization strategy, not an afterthought. Question 9. Strategic planning requires Petco to optimize its in-store customer service processes. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory expectations and ethical considerations for a company focused on pet well-being and customer trust? Option A. Developing streamlined training modules for associates that emphasize product placement and sales techniques, with less emphasis on in-depth pet health and safety protocols. Option B. Redesigning the checkout process to minimize interaction time between associates and customers, thereby increasing throughput and reducing labor costs. Option C. Conducting a thorough review of all customer-facing processes, including associate training, product information dissemination, and customer interaction protocols, to identify efficiencies that do not compromise product quality, customer trust, or pet welfare. Option D. Implementing a new customer feedback system that prioritizes collecting data on service speed and efficiency, with a secondary focus on product knowledge and pet care advice. The correct answer is D. Implementing a new customer feedback system that prioritizes collecting data on service speed and efficiency, with a secondary focus on product knowledge and pet care advice. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail company with a focus on animal welfare, operates under various consumer protection laws and ethical guidelines related to product quality, advertising, and customer service. Ensuring that process optimization efforts do not inadvertently lead to misrepresentation or compromise the well-being of pets or the trust of their owners is paramount. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency gains with these critical responsibilities. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of existing processes and potential improvements, with a specific focus on how these changes might impact product quality, customer communication, and regulatory compliance. This approach is best professional practice because it proactively identifies and mitigates risks. It aligns with ethical obligations to customers and regulatory requirements such as those enforced by the Better Business Bureau, BBB, and potentially state-level consumer protection agencies, which prohibit deceptive trade practices and mandate fair dealing. By prioritizing customer trust and pet welfare in the optimization process, Petco upholds its brand integrity and avoids potential legal repercussions. An approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the downstream effects on product quality or customer experience is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to regulatory violations if it results in the sale of substandard products or misleading advertising about product efficacy, potentially violating consumer protection laws. Similarly, an approach that prioritizes speed of service over thoroughness in areas like pet health advice or product recommendations could lead to harm to pets and erode customer trust, creating ethical and potentially legal liabilities. An approach that bypasses established quality control checks in the name of efficiency risks noncompliance with internal standards and industry best practices, which are often implicitly or explicitly tied to regulatory expectations for product safety and efficacy. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that integrates process optimization goals with a robust understanding of applicable regulations and ethical principles. This involves conducting thorough impact assessments for any proposed process changes, considering potential effects on product quality, customer satisfaction, employee training, and regulatory adherence. Seeking input from relevant stakeholders, including legal and compliance departments, is crucial. Prioritizing solutions that enhance both efficiency and customer/pet well-being, rather than sacrificing one for the other, demonstrates sound professional judgment. Question 10. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new inventory management system at Petco could significantly reduce holding costs. However, the proposed system requires a substantial reduction in the number of associates on the sales floor during peak hours to manage the associated labor savings. Which approach best balances the potential financial benefits with operational integrity and ethical considerations? Option A. Implement the new inventory system immediately and reallocate the freed-up labor to other less customer-facing tasks, accepting a potential temporary decrease in floor coverage during peak times. Option B. Proceed with the labor reduction as planned, assuming that the efficiency gains from the new system will compensate for reduced floor staff and that customers will adapt to longer wait times. Option C. Pilot the new inventory system in a select few stores, gathering data on its impact on inventory accuracy, customer wait times, and associate workload, and use this feedback to refine the implementation strategy before a wider rollout. Option D. Delay the implementation of the new inventory system until a more robust technological solution can be found that requires no reduction in associate staffing levels, even if it means foregoing immediate cost savings. The correct answer is A. Implement the new inventory system immediately and reallocate the freed-up labor to other less customer-facing tasks, accepting a potential temporary decrease in floor coverage during peak times. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in retail operations where efficiency gains from process optimization must be balanced against potential impacts on customer experience and employee well-being. The professional challenge lies in identifying the most sustainable and ethically sound approach that aligns with Petco's commitment to both operational excellence and its values, without compromising regulatory compliance or customer trust. The pressure to demonstrate cost savings can lead to shortcuts that, while appearing beneficial in the short term, can have detrimental long-term consequences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation of process changes, prioritizing those that demonstrably improve efficiency without negatively impacting customer service or employee workload beyond reasonable limits. This approach is justified by a commitment to responsible business practices, which often align with implicit or explicit regulatory expectations regarding fair labor practices and customer satisfaction. By conducting pilot programs and gathering feedback, Petco can identify and mitigate potential negative consequences before a full rollout, ensuring that the optimization efforts are truly beneficial and sustainable. This aligns with a proactive risk management strategy, which is a cornerstone of good corporate governance and can prevent future regulatory scrutiny or reputational damage. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing changes that significantly reduce staffing levels without a corresponding decrease in customer demand or task complexity is an ethically questionable approach. This can lead to overburdened employees, decreased service quality, and potential violations of labor laws related to working conditions and overtime. It prioritizes short-term cost savings over long-term operational health and employee welfare. Adopting new technology without adequate employee training or support is another problematic approach. While technology can be a powerful tool for optimization, its effectiveness is diminished if employees are not equipped to use it properly. This can lead to frustration, errors, and a decline in both efficiency and customer satisfaction, potentially creating a negative work environment and impacting compliance with safety or operational standards. Focusing solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on customer experience can lead to a decline in sales and customer loyalty. While cost efficiency is important, it should not come at the expense of the core value proposition of the business. This approach risks alienating customers and damaging the brand's reputation, which can have significant financial repercussions that outweigh any initial cost savings. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization by first conducting a thorough assessment of current processes, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement. This assessment should include input from employees who are directly involved in the processes. Next, potential solutions should be evaluated not only for their cost-saving potential, but also for their impact on customer experience, employee workload, and regulatory compliance. Pilot testing and phased implementation allow for data-driven adjustments and risk mitigation. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to ensure that the optimized processes remain effective and aligned with company values and legal requirements. Question 11. Upon reviewing the operational workflow for Petco's in-store grooming salons, a manager identifies several areas where wait times for appointments and service completion appear to be longer than industry benchmarks. The manager is tasked with proposing process optimizations to improve efficiency and customer satisfaction. Which of the following approaches best balances operational improvement with the ethical and regulatory responsibilities of Petco? Option A. Developing a streamlined appointment scheduling process that allows for more flexible booking options and implementing a system for real-time updates to customers regarding their pet service status, while ensuring adequate staffing and training for groomers to maintain high-quality care. Option B. Reducing the number of available grooming appointments per day to align with a reduced staffing schedule, thereby lowering labor costs and ensuring each groomer has a less demanding workload. Option C. Implementing a new, more complex appointment booking system that requires customers to pre-select specific grooming tasks and estimated service durations, with the goal of better allocating groomer time. Option D. Introducing a policy that limits the types of breeds or coat conditions that can be accepted for grooming, thereby simplifying the grooming process and reducing the time required per appointment. The correct answer is C. Implementing a new, more complex appointment booking system that requires customers to pre-select specific grooming tasks and estimated service durations, with the goal of better allocating groomer time. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because Petco, as a retail and service provider for pets, operates under various consumer protection laws and industry best practices designed to ensure the welfare of animals and the satisfaction of their owners. Process optimization, while beneficial for efficiency, must not compromise these core responsibilities. Careful judgment is required to balance operational improvements with ethical considerations and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of existing processes to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies, followed by the implementation of changes that demonstrably improve service delivery or operational flow without negatively impacting animal care standards or customer experience. This aligns with general business ethics and the implied commitment Petco makes to its customers and the animals in its care. Specifically, any process changes must adhere to any applicable state or local regulations concerning animal handling, sales, and care, as well as consumer protection laws regarding product and service quality. The focus should be on enhancing the customer and pet experience through improved efficiency, such as streamlining appointment scheduling for grooming services or optimizing inventory management for pet supplies, thereby ensuring product availability and freshness. An incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction above all else, without considering the potential impact on animal welfare or customer service, would be professionally unacceptable. For example, reducing staffing levels in animal care areas to cut costs could lead to inadequate supervision, hygiene issues, or delayed responses to animal needs, violating ethical standards and potentially specific animal welfare regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to implement changes that create significant customer inconvenience, such as overly complex return policies or confusing service booking systems, which could breach consumer protection principles by making it difficult for customers to exercise their rights or access services. Implementing new technology without adequate staff training could also lead to errors and negatively impact both animal care and customer interactions, demonstrating a failure to ensure operational integrity. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of process optimization. This should be followed by a thorough risk assessment, considering potential impacts on animal welfare, customer satisfaction, regulatory compliance, and employee well-being. Solutions should be evaluated not only for efficiency gains, but also for their ethical implications and adherence to all relevant laws and guidelines. Pilot testing and feedback mechanisms are crucial to ensure that implemented changes are effective and do not introduce unintended negative consequences. Question 12. Market research demonstrates that customers are increasingly seeking personalized shopping experiences. Petco is considering a new initiative to streamline its customer data collection and analysis processes to better tailor product recommendations and promotions. Which of the following approaches best balances the goal of enhanced customer personalization with regulatory compliance? Option A. Implementing a new data analytics platform that aggregates all customer purchase history, online browsing data, and demographic information, and using this comprehensive profile to generate personalized offers without explicitly informing customers about the extent of data being used or offering opt-out mechanisms. Option B. Expanding the use of third-party data brokers to enrich customer profiles with additional demographic and behavioral data, and integrating this information into the personalization engine without verifying the data broker's compliance with privacy laws. Option C. Automating the collection of all available customer data points across all Petco platforms and channels, and using this data for personalization, assuming that general terms of service cover all data usage, even for purposes not explicitly stated. Option D. Developing a customer feedback system that allows customers to voluntarily share their preferences and interests, and using this explicitly provided information, along with anonymized aggregate purchase data, to inform personalized recommendations, while ensuring clear communication about data usage and providing easy opt-out options. The correct answer is A. Implementing a new data analytics platform that aggregates all customer purchase history, online browsing data, and demographic information, and using this comprehensive profile to generate personalized offers without explicitly informing customers about the extent of data being used or offering opt-out mechanisms. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Petco employees tasked with optimizing processes related to customer data handling. The core difficulty lies in balancing the drive for efficiency and improved customer experience with the stringent requirements of data privacy regulations. Misinterpreting or circumventing these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and a loss of customer trust. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process optimization efforts are not only effective, but also fully compliant. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing data handling procedures against the specific requirements of applicable data privacy laws, such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, if operating within California, or other relevant U.S. federal and state regulations. This includes understanding what constitutes personal information, how it can be collected, used, stored, and deleted, and ensuring that any new processes maintain these protections. The justification for this approach is rooted in regulatory compliance and ethical responsibility. Adhering to data privacy laws is a legal obligation, and ethically, companies have a duty to protect their customers' sensitive information. Implementing changes that respect these boundaries fosters trust and long-term customer loyalty. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed and cost savings over data privacy. For instance, implementing a new customer loyalty program that automatically shares customer purchase history with third-party marketing partners without explicit, informed consent would violate data privacy regulations. This failure stems from a disregard for the principle of consent and the right to privacy. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a data retention policy that keeps customer data indefinitely, even if it's no longer necessary for the original purpose of collection. This violates principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, which are fundamental to most data privacy frameworks. Such actions expose Petco to regulatory fines and damage its reputation as a trustworthy retailer. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the regulatory landscape relevant to their operations. This involves understanding the specific laws and guidelines governing data collection, use, and storage. Before implementing any process change, a comprehensive risk assessment should be conducted, focusing on potential privacy implications. Seeking legal counsel or consulting with privacy officers is crucial to ensure that proposed optimizations align with all legal and ethical obligations. The process should also include mechanisms for ongoing monitoring and auditing to ensure continued compliance. Question 13. Operational review demonstrates that the current process for onboarding new pet adoption partners at Petco involves significant manual data entry and lengthy approval times, leading to delays in making animals available for adoption. Which of the following approaches best addresses this inefficiency while upholding Petco's commitment to animal welfare and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implementing a new digital platform that automates data entry and streamlines the approval workflow, with built-in checks for partner compliance with Petco's adoption standards and relevant animal welfare regulations. Option B. Outsourcing the entire onboarding process to a third-party vendor without establishing clear oversight or performance metrics related to animal welfare. Option C. Prioritizing speed of onboarding above all else, allowing partners to begin the adoption process immediately upon initial contact with minimal documentation. Option D. Reducing the number of required partner vetting steps to expedite the onboarding process, focusing primarily on basic contact information. The correct answer is A. Implementing a new digital platform that automates data entry and streamlines the approval workflow, with built-in checks for partner compliance with Petco's adoption standards and relevant animal welfare regulations. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail and service provider for pets, operates under various consumer protection laws and industry best practices designed to ensure the well-being of animals and the satisfaction of their owners. Implementing process changes requires a delicate balance between operational efficiency and adherence to these standards. The challenge lies in identifying improvements that do not compromise animal welfare, customer trust, or regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of existing workflows to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies that can be addressed without negatively impacting service quality or animal care. This includes consulting with subject matter experts, such as veterinary staff and animal care specialists, to ensure any proposed changes align with best practices for animal health and safety. Furthermore, it necessitates a review of relevant Petco policies and any applicable local or state regulations concerning animal handling, sales, and care. This approach prioritizes a holistic view, ensuring that efficiency gains do not come at the expense of ethical responsibilities or legal obligations. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes solely based on cost reduction, without considering the potential impact on animal welfare or customer experience. This could lead to violations of consumer protection laws that mandate certain standards of care or product quality. Another incorrect approach is to bypass consultation with experienced staff or regulatory guidelines. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and could result in processes that are not only inefficient, but also ethically questionable or non-compliant, potentially leading to reputational damage and legal repercussions for Petco. Professionals should approach process optimization by first understanding the current state, identifying areas for improvement, and then rigorously evaluating potential solutions against established ethical guidelines, company policies, and all relevant legal frameworks. This involves a collaborative process, seeking input from all stakeholders and conducting thorough risk assessments before implementation. Question 14. Examination of the data shows that Petco's current inventory management system for live animals and specialized pet food is experiencing delays, impacting both product availability and associate workflow. To address this, a proposed process optimization focuses on reducing the frequency of manual inventory checks and relying more heavily on automated reorder points. Considering Petco's commitment to animal welfare and regulatory compliance, which of the following approaches best balances efficiency with these critical responsibilities? Option A. Enhance the automated reorder system to include real-time tracking of live animal health status and specific dietary needs, alongside sales data, and maintain weekly manual spot checks for critical items. Option B. Shift the responsibility for live animal inventory management to a third-party logistics provider without direct oversight from Petco's animal care specialists. Option C. Implement an automated reorder system that triggers replenishment based solely on sales data, reducing manual checks to once per month. Option D. Reduce manual inventory checks to quarterly and rely entirely on the automated system for all reordering, assuming sales data accurately reflects all needs. The correct answer is C. Implement an automated reorder system that triggers replenishment based solely on sales data, reducing manual checks to once per month. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail organization, must balance operational efficiency with adherence to various regulatory requirements, particularly those concerning animal welfare and consumer safety. The pressure to optimize processes, such as inventory management and customer service, can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise these critical areas. Careful judgment is required to ensure that efficiency gains do not come at the expense of legal compliance and ethical treatment of animals. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies, and then proposing and implementing changes that enhance productivity without negatively impacting animal care standards or customer experience. This aligns with Petco's commitment to responsible pet ownership and adherence to all applicable federal, state, and local regulations governing the sale and care of animals. For instance, ensuring adequate staffing for animal care during peak sales periods, maintaining proper inventory levels of essential supplies, and implementing clear protocols for handling customer inquiries about pet health are all process-driven improvements that support regulatory compliance and ethical operations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction by reducing staffing levels in animal care areas would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to inadequate monitoring of animal health, potential spread of illness, and failure to meet the basic needs of the animals, thereby violating animal welfare regulations and ethical standards. Another incorrect approach, such as streamlining customer service by limiting the time associates can spend addressing complex pet care questions, could result in customers receiving insufficient or inaccurate advice, potentially leading to harm to their pets and contravening consumer protection guidelines or Petco's own service standards. A third incorrect approach, like automating inventory management without ensuring it accurately tracks live animal needs or specialized product requirements, could lead to stockouts of critical items or overstocking of unsuitable products, impacting animal well-being and operational effectiveness. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the current state of processes, identifying key performance indicators, KPI, related to both efficiency and compliance, and then evaluating potential changes against these metrics. A robust decision-making framework would involve cross-functional collaboration, risk assessment, and a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape to ensure that any process optimization efforts are sustainable, ethical, and legally sound. Question 15. Assessment of the most effective strategy for Petco hiring managers to optimize the onboarding process for new store associates, ensuring both rapid integration into operational duties and adherence to company standards. Option A. Immediately reduce the duration of all onboarding sessions by 25% to expedite the time new associates spend on the sales floor. Option B. Assign the redesign of the onboarding process to the newest member of the HR team with minimal oversight to encourage fresh perspectives. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current onboarding workflow, gather feedback from recent hires and experienced staff, and implement targeted improvements to streamline training modules and compliance checks. Option D. Transition all onboarding materials to a fully digital format and require new hires to complete modules independently without direct supervision. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current onboarding workflow, gather feedback from recent hires and experienced staff, and implement targeted improvements to streamline training modules and compliance checks. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a Petco hiring manager tasked with optimizing the onboarding process for new associates. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficiency and speed in bringing new team members up to full productivity with the imperative to ensure compliance with all relevant Petco policies and potentially applicable labor laws. Rushing the process could lead to incomplete training, potential policy violations, and a negative initial experience for new hires, impacting retention and performance. Conversely, an overly protracted process could delay essential operational functions and create frustration. Careful judgment is required to identify the most effective and compliant method. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review and refinement of the existing onboarding workflow. This entails identifying bottlenecks, redundancies, and areas where clarity or resources are lacking. It requires engaging with stakeholders, such as new hires, trainers, and department managers, to gather feedback and understand practical challenges. The goal is to streamline steps, improve the clarity of training materials, and ensure all necessary compliance checks are integrated seamlessly. This methodical, data-informed approach, aligned with Petco's internal operational guidelines and any relevant employment standards, ensures that efficiency gains do not compromise the quality of training, the adherence to company standards, or the positive integration of new employees into the Petco team. This aligns with best practices in process management and human resources, aiming for sustainable improvements. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a significantly shortened onboarding timeline without a thorough analysis of its impact on training effectiveness and compliance is an incorrect approach. This could lead to new associates not receiving adequate information on safety protocols, customer service standards, or company policies, potentially resulting in errors, accidents, or policy breaches. It fails to consider the comprehensive nature of effective onboarding. Another incorrect approach would be to solely focus on digitizing all onboarding materials, without considering the practical application and hands-on training necessary for many retail roles at Petco. While digital resources can be valuable, they may not fully substitute for direct instruction and supervised practice, especially concerning product knowledge, animal care procedures, or point-of-sale system proficiency. This approach risks creating a superficial understanding rather than true competency. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the entire redesign of the onboarding process to a single individual without involving key stakeholders or seeking input from those directly affected by the process. This can lead to a solution that is disconnected from the realities of daily operations, fails to address critical pain points, and may overlook essential compliance requirements that are best understood by those on the front lines or in compliance roles. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization by first understanding the current state, identifying objectives, and then systematically evaluating potential solutions. This involves a continuous improvement mindset, prioritizing solutions that enhance efficiency while upholding compliance and quality standards. When faced with optimizing a process like new hire onboarding, a professional would 1. Define clear objectives for the optimized process, e.g., faster time to productivity, improved retention, higher associate satisfaction, full compliance. 2. Map the current onboarding process to identify all steps, inputs, outputs, and stakeholders. 3. Gather feedback from new hires, trainers, and managers to pinpoint inefficiencies and areas for improvement. 4. Research and propose specific actionable changes that address identified issues, considering both operational efficiency and adherence to Petco policies and relevant employment regulations. 5. pilot proposed changes, and measure their impact against the defined objectives before full implementation. 6. Establish mechanisms for ongoing monitoring and refinement of the optimized process. Question 16. Which approach would be most appropriate for Petco to adopt when seeking to optimize its customer communication processes to improve response times while ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations? Option A. Implementing a new automated system that categorizes and responds to customer inquiries based on keywords without a manual review of data handling procedures. Option B. Utilizing customer data from various sources to personalize marketing messages, even if it means sharing data with external marketing partners without explicit customer opt-in for such sharing. Option C. Expediting the processing of customer feedback by directly forwarding all customer comments and personal details to a third-party analytics firm for immediate analysis, bypassing internal data security protocols. Option D. Conducting a thorough review of existing communication workflows, identifying inefficiencies, and redesigning them with a focus on data minimization, secure data handling, and clear customer consent mechanisms. The correct answer is A. Implementing a new automated system that categorizes and responds to customer inquiries based on keywords, without a manual review of data handling procedures. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Petco employees tasked with optimizing internal processes, specifically concerning customer data handling and communication protocols. The core difficulty lies in balancing efficiency gains with the absolute requirement to adhere to data privacy regulations and ethical customer service standards. Employees must exercise careful judgment to ensure that any process optimization does not inadvertently lead to non-compliance or a degradation of customer trust. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement, while prioritizing data privacy and security at every step. This approach is best professional practice because it aligns with the fundamental ethical obligation to protect customer information and comply with relevant regulations, such as those governing data handling and consumer communication. By integrating privacy by design principles and conducting thorough risk assessments before implementing changes, Petco can ensure that process optimization enhances efficiency without compromising customer rights or legal obligations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed and cost reduction without considering data privacy would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to violations of data protection laws, resulting in significant fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer confidence. Another incorrect approach that involves sharing customer data with third parties without explicit consent or a clear legal basis would also be a severe ethical and regulatory failure, undermining the trust placed in Petco by its customers. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established communication protocols or consent mechanisms, even for perceived efficiency, risks alienating customers and violating communication regulations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape relevant to customer data and communications. This involves identifying all applicable laws and guidelines. Next, they should assess the potential impact of any proposed process change on customer data privacy and security. A risk assessment should be conducted, followed by the development of mitigation strategies. Finally, any optimized process must be validated against regulatory requirements and ethical standards before implementation, with ongoing monitoring to ensure continued compliance. Question 17. Implementation of a new inventory management system at Petco stores to streamline stock rotation and reduce waste requires careful consideration of its impact on animal care protocols and customer service standards. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency with regulatory and ethical obligations? Option A. Prioritizing the fastest possible implementation of the new system, with minimal disruption to existing sales operations, even if it means temporarily reassigning animal care staff to assist with system setup. Option B. Focusing exclusively on reducing the number of stockouts and overstock situations to minimize financial losses, without conducting a detailed analysis of how the new system might affect the daily routines of animal care or customer interactions. Option C. Conducting a comprehensive review of current inventory processes, identifying areas for improvement, and then developing and piloting proposed changes with input from animal care specialists, store managers, and customer service teams to ensure compliance with animal welfare guidelines and customer satisfaction metrics before full rollout. Option D. Automating all inventory tracking and reordering processes to eliminate manual intervention, assuming that technological advancement inherently leads to improved operational efficiency and compliance. The correct answer is A. Prioritizing the fastest possible implementation of the new system, with minimal disruption to existing sales operations, even if it means temporarily reassigning animal care staff to assist with system setup. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail and service provider for pets, operates under various consumer protection laws and industry best practices designed to ensure the well-being of animals and the satisfaction of their owners. Implementing process optimization without considering these factors can lead to unintended negative consequences, such as compromising animal welfare, violating customer trust, or incurring regulatory penalties. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency gains with ethical responsibilities and legal compliance. The correct approach involves a holistic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and then proposing changes that not only improve operational flow, but also uphold Petco's commitment to animal care and customer service. This includes consulting with relevant stakeholders, such as veterinary staff, animal care specialists, and customer service representatives, to ensure that any optimization does not negatively impact the quality of care or the customer experience. Regulatory compliance, such as adherence to any local animal welfare ordinances or consumer protection statutes, must be a foundational element of the optimization strategy. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on animal welfare would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, reducing staffing levels in animal care areas to save money could lead to inadequate supervision, increased stress for animals, and potential health issues, which could violate animal welfare standards and lead to customer complaints and potential regulatory scrutiny. Another incorrect approach would be to implement changes to customer service protocols that prioritize speed over thoroughness. This might involve reducing the time spent with customers to address their concerns or provide product information, potentially leading to misunderstandings, dissatisfaction, and a failure to meet customer expectations, which could be viewed as a breach of consumer protection principles. A third incorrect approach would be to bypass established safety and sanitation protocols in the name of efficiency. This could involve skipping steps in cleaning procedures for animal habitats or grooming areas, increasing the risk of disease transmission among animals, posing health risks to staff and customers, thereby violating health and safety regulations and ethical standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core objectives of the optimization initiative. This should be followed by a thorough assessment of current processes, identifying potential risks and benefits, and consulting relevant internal policies and external regulations. Stakeholder engagement is crucial to gather diverse perspectives and ensure that proposed changes are practical and ethically sound. Finally, a pilot testing phase and ongoing monitoring are essential to validate the effectiveness and compliance of the optimized processes. Question 18. Compliance review shows that Petco is considering a significant overhaul of its online order fulfillment process to improve delivery times. The proposed changes aim to streamline inventory management and dispatch procedures. However, the project team is advocating for an immediate, company-wide rollout to capture the benefits quickly, bypassing the usual multi-stage testing and approval phases. What is the most responsible approach for Petco to adopt regarding this process optimization? Option A. Conduct a pilot program in a limited number of stores and online regions to test the new process, gather feedback, and identify any compliance or operational issues before a full rollout. Option B. Proceed with the new process by only seeking approval from the operations department, as they are most familiar with the day-to-day workflow and can best assess its immediate impact. Option C. Implement the new fulfillment process immediately across all Petco locations and online platforms to maximize efficiency gains and customer satisfaction from faster deliveries. Option D. Prioritize cost savings by adopting the new process without extensive testing, assuming that any minor issues can be addressed reactively after implementation. Correct answer is C. Implement the new fulfillment process immediately across all Petco locations and online platforms to maximize efficiency gains and customer satisfaction from faster deliveries. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a regulated entity, must ensure its internal processes, particularly those impacting customer interactions and data handling, align with all applicable consumer protection laws and industry best practices. The pressure to implement changes quickly for efficiency can create a conflict with the need for thorough review and adherence to established protocols. Careful judgment is required to balance operational improvements with compliance obligations. The correct approach involves a phased implementation with pilot testing and stakeholder feedback. This method is professionally sound because it allows Petco to identify and rectify potential compliance issues or process breakdowns in a controlled environment before a full rollout. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of widespread noncompliance with consumer protection regulations, such as those governing data privacy or accurate product representation, and ensures that the optimized process is both effective and legally sound. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible business practices and customer trust. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate, company-wide deployment without adequate testing risks significant regulatory penalties and reputational damage. For instance, if the new process inadvertently leads to misrepresentation of product availability or pricing, it could violate consumer protection laws. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on customer experience or data security, could lead to breaches of privacy regulations or customer dissatisfaction, which can trigger regulatory scrutiny. A third incorrect approach, involving the bypass of established internal review committees, undermines corporate governance and can lead to the adoption of processes that are not only non-compliant, but also strategically unsound. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape relevant to the proposed process change. This involves identifying potential impacts on customer data, product information, and service delivery. Next, they should assess the risks associated with the proposed changes, considering both operational efficiency gains and potential compliance failures. A structured approach to testing and validation, including pilot programs and feedback loops, is crucial. Finally, ensuring that all changes are documented and approved by relevant compliance and legal departments before full implementation is a critical step in maintaining a compliant and ethical operation. Question 19. During the evaluation of Petco's in-store operational processes, a team identifies an opportunity to significantly reduce the time spent on daily animal enclosure cleaning by implementing a new, less labor-intensive sanitization method. This method, however, uses a chemical solution that, while approved for general industrial use, has not been specifically vetted for its long-term effects on the specific species housed at Petco or its potential to leave residual irritants if not meticulously rinsed. Which of the following approaches best represents a responsible and compliant process optimization strategy for Petco? Option A. Prioritize the cost savings and efficiency gains by adopting the new method, assuming that general industrial approval implies adequate safety for all applications. Option B. Immediately implement the new sanitization method to realize cost and time savings, with a plan to monitor animal health for any adverse reactions post-implementation. Option C. Delegate the decision to the store managers, allowing them to adopt the new method if they deem it practical for their individual store operations, without centralized oversight. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the chemical solution's safety data sheets and consult with veterinary professionals and animal welfare experts to confirm its suitability and develop a rigorous rinsing protocol before considering implementation. The correct answer is B. Immediately implement the new sanitization method to realize cost and time savings, with a plan to monitor animal health for any adverse reactions post-implementation. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because Petco, as a retail organization, must balance operational efficiency with ensuring compliance with various regulations, particularly those related to animal welfare and product safety, which are central to its business model. The pressure to optimize processes can sometimes lead to shortcuts that might inadvertently violate these standards. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements that are both effective and compliant. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing workflows, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and then proposing solutions that demonstrably improve output or reduce waste without compromising regulatory adherence or ethical standards. This aligns with the principles of good corporate governance and responsible business practices, which are implicitly expected of any company operating within regulated industries. Specifically for Petco, this would involve ensuring that any process optimization related to animal care, product handling, or customer service upholds the highest standards of animal welfare and consumer protection, as mandated by relevant state and federal laws, e.g., Animal Welfare Act, Consumer Protection Statutes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on animal welfare or product integrity would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, reducing staffing levels in animal care areas to cut expenses could lead to inadequate monitoring, feeding, or cleaning, violating animal welfare regulations and potentially leading to health issues for the animals, which would damage Petco's reputation and incur legal penalties. Similarly, optimizing inventory management by using less robust packaging for pet food could compromise product quality and safety, violating consumer protection laws and potentially harming pets. Another incorrect approach might be to implement new technology without adequate training for staff, leading to errors in product handling or customer service that could have regulatory implications or negatively impact customer trust. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes compliance and ethical considerations alongside efficiency gains. This involves conducting thorough risk assessments for any proposed process changes, consulting relevant internal policies and external regulations, and seeking input from stakeholders, including those directly involved in the affected processes and subject matter experts in compliance and animal welfare. The ultimate goal is to achieve improvements that are sustainable, ethical, and legally sound. Question 20. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the process for handling customer returns at Petco stores is causing significant delays and customer frustration. Which of the following approaches best addresses this issue while upholding Petco's commitment to customer satisfaction and operational integrity? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the current return process, gathering data on wait times, reasons for returns, and staff feedback to identify specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement before proposing changes. Option B. Focus solely on reducing the number of staff members involved in the return process to cut labor costs, assuming this will increase efficiency. Option C. Immediately implement a new, more restrictive return policy to reduce the volume of returns and speed up processing. Option D. Train all store associates to expedite returns by overriding standard procedures when they encounter customers who appear impatient. The correct answer is C. Immediately implement a new, more restrictive return policy to reduce the volume of returns and speed up processing. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Petco, as a retail organization, must balance operational efficiency with customer trust and regulatory compliance. Stakeholder feedback, particularly from customers and potentially from internal teams like marketing or operations, highlights a perceived inefficiency. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of this inefficiency and implementing a solution that is both effective and adheres to relevant regulations, such as those governing customer data privacy and fair business practices. A hasty or poorly considered approach could lead to customer dissatisfaction, reputational damage, or even regulatory penalties. The correct approach involves a systematic and data-driven investigation into the feedback. This means gathering more specific information about the nature of the perceived inefficiency, analyzing current processes to identify bottlenecks or areas for improvement, and then proposing solutions that are aligned with Petco's operational goals and ethical standards. This approach prioritizes understanding the problem before implementing a solution, ensuring that any changes are well-founded and likely to be successful. It also implicitly considers the impact on customer experience and data handling, which are critical in today's regulatory environment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost reduction without understanding the underlying process would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to cutting corners that negatively impact customer service or data security, potentially violating consumer protection laws or data privacy regulations. Similarly, an approach that involves making assumptions about the cause of the inefficiency Without proper investigation risks implementing ineffective solutions or even creating new problems. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold professional standards of care and responsibility. Another incorrect approach might be to dismiss the feedback without adequate review, which would be a failure to engage with stakeholders and address potential issues that could harm Petco's reputation or operations. Professionals should approach such situations by first acknowledging and validating stakeholder feedback. This should be followed by a structured problem-solving process, defining the problem clearly, gathering relevant data, analyzing potential causes, developing and evaluating solutions, and finally, implementing and monitoring the chosen solution. This iterative process ensures that decisions are informed, ethical, and aligned with organizational objectives and regulatory requirements.